What is up, YouTube? Jeff Loads here, representing the 256 Uganda, and this is going to be my first reaction. And what other way to start this than starting from Africa, the origin of Africa, where uh, Africa was known as ALKEBULAN, and I'm here to dig into the history of Africa and see what they were talking about. Let's get right into it, though.
The name Africa echoed across the maps of the world. This land was already ancient. It had breathed life into the world, danced with the stars, whispered wisdom through its trees, and walked proudly with the rhythm of a timeless spirit. It was not Africa, not yet. It was ALKEBULAN, the mother of mankind. It was Tamari, the beloved land. It was Kemet,
Africa, ALKEBULAN, the motherland, something like motherland.
Kush,
Okay.
Punt, Ethiopia, and 1,000 other names spoken in 1,000 ancient tongues. This is the story of that land. Before it was renamed, before it was forgotten, before it was divided. This is the real story of Africa. In the beginning there was land, land cradled by the Nile, warmed by the sun, kissed by the Atlantic and the Indian.
So the Nile is River Nile, which is it starts from Uganda, where all the way through southern Sudan, northern Sudan, into Egypt. It goes into the Mediterranean Sea, and that's what they're talking about here.
Vast forests, stretching deserts, snow-capped peaks, and life-giving rivers. It was here that humanity first stood upright. The first heartbeat of civilization echoed through this soil, and they called it ALKEBULAN, a name passed from lips that understood the earth as a mother, not a map. ALKEBULAN, the original name, a name of power, of warmth, of memory. The Moors, the Nubians, the early scholars all knew this name, but today it lives in silence, hidden beneath dust and denial. From the banks of the Nile rose Kemet, a land the world would later call Egypt. But Kemet was more than pyramids and pharaohs. It was a university before the word existed.
So they're saying Africa was organized, in other words, just like I expected it to be, with kingdoms and kings, and the hierarchy of royals, and you know the common people. Yeah, and of course, before the colonial people came, that was that's what was saying that we are backward and whatever. They had more technology, but here there's a lot of stuff that people need. Like they're saying, they were doctors. They were they had like built pyramids and different kinds of things. So there was some sort of technology or science in Africa before the colonial powers came, and that's interesting to find out.
Society of engineers, healers, poets, and priests. The people lived by Ma'at, the principle of truth, balance, order, and justice. Kemet gave the world writing, surgery, architecture, and the calendar. They mapped the stars before telescopes. They understood the soul.
They used telescopes. Damn, I didn't even know that one. That's
Or
crazy.
psychology. To the south, Kush flourished, powerful and proud. Their kings built pyramids 200s, and some even ruled Kemet itself. They were the Black Pharaohs, children of the same Nile, sharing the same sun. To the east was the land of Punt, the mysterious kingdom of perfumes, gold, and wisdom.
Perfume, gold, and wisdom. That's East Africa. So Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Congo. Congo is a Democratic Republic of Congo, and Congo in general is known for having the biggest mineral sources in the world, and that's why there's so many people fighting for it within Africa, and all the colonial powers. Makes sense. A lot of, I don't know about the perfume part, but yeah.
Queens sent ships to trade with Punt's rulers, describing it as a divine land, rich and pure. Further north, ancient Carthage stood tall, a Phoenician African superpower.
Carthage. What is Carthage? Carthage.
Ancient Carthage stood tall, a Phoenician African superpower. Its general, Hannibal, one of the greatest military minds of all time.
Is that Libya or you know Morocco? Any of those? Because Kemet they say is Egypt. So is Carthage Egypt part of Carthage? Because it's part of the north. Okay, we'll see.
Crossed the Alps with elephants to challenge Rome itself. Yet, after Carthage fell, the Romans gave the land a new name, Africa. Some say it came from the Afri, a Berber tribe near present-day Tunisia. Others say from the Greek word aphrike, meaning without cold, or the Latin aprica, meaning sunny. To the Arabs, it became Afrikia. To the world, it became Africa. But never forget, Africa did not name itself. To the west, across the golden sands of the Sahara, rose Wagadu, later known as the Ghana Empire.
Wagadu, the Ghana Empire. But to go back a little bit, they're saying Africa was given the name because of the climate being sunny or whatever, and that's interesting to know because some parts of Africa don't have the sun. Like in some parts of South Africa, there's like snow and stuff. So that's interesting to see.
On myth, but on gold, literal rivers of it.
But to be fair, Africa has a lot of sun, like in general, all year round. So it makes sense as well.
Ghana controlled the trade of salt, gold, ivory, and knowledge. Then came Mali, under the legendary Mansa Musa, whose pilgrimage to Mecca was so grand, it shook the economy of every city he passed.
So Mansa Musa, from what I know, I think is one of the richest Africans to ever live. And from what they're saying, of course, because of the expansive gold mines and reserves they had, probably that's what made them really, really rich and stuff. And that means even in West Africa, the gold that they're extracting from the Burkina Faso and Ibrahim Traore situation makes sense because they're saying Mali, and that's where Mansa Musa was. That means there's probably gold still there. Burkina Faso, I think they discovered gold. And all over Africa, there's like a lot of gold here in Africa and minerals. So Africa is a rich continent.
Empire was a beacon of wealth and wisdom. In Timbuktu, the libraries were vast, and the scholars wrote in astronomy, medicine, law, and literature. It was the Silicon Valley of its time. After Mali, the Songhai Empire rose, a powerhouse of law, trade, and education. It stood tall until foreign weapons and greed brought it down. Far south, beyond the Zambezi, stood Great Zimbabwe. Massive stone towers.
By Zambezi, they mean also the Zambezi River, something like down in the South Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, all those.
Walls built without mortar. A city that stunned European explorers who refused to believe Africans built it. But we did, because Africa was never tribal. Africa was architectural, spiritual, sovereign, supreme. In every corner of the continent, from the Dogon star knowledge in Mali to the Sand People's ancient cave art in South Africa, Africa understood the cosmos.
Africa understood the cosmos. Technology! We had the technology. But these people, people lie to us that we were so backwards. There's a lot of knowledge Africa's had, like spiritually, the cultural, like even now there's still cultural, like healers and stuff like that. So we are being misled a little bit. But yeah, let's keep going.
Understood life and afterlife. We believed in ancestors not as memories, but as living forces. We consulted oracles not for fear, but for balance. The drum was not an instrument, it was a language. The mask not decoration, but identity. This was the soul of Africa. Then came the silence. Foreign ships arrived, not to trade, but to take. They came for gold and took people. They came for land and took names. The Berlin Conference sliced Africa like a cake, drawn by rulers who never stepped foot here. They drew borders, created countries, planted flags. They erased languages, destroyed shrines, outlawed names. They taught that Africa was darkness, poverty, chaos. But Africa never forgot. Today, the children of ALKEBULAN are awakening. They are telling the old stories in new ways. They are dancing to drums and drones. They are rebuilding what was hidden, reclaiming what was lost. They are making history across all industries in the world.
And the fever is starting from Burkina Faso with Ibrahim Traore. So that's something good. At least there's going to be some kind of order and decency in Africa, because that's all we really want in Africa, to have some sort of, stability, no wars, less poverty, people having jobs or job opportunities like equally, or like how it is in Europe and America. That's what we want, and they are stopping us from doing that by lying to us in all kinds of ways. But God has a way, and this is interesting to find out as well. Let's keep going a little bit.
Spirits of ALKEBULAN and their ancestors' fights for the endlessly. The land that was once called ALKEBULAN is finding her voice again, and she is not asking for permission, because the world needs to hear her story, not from textbooks written in distant lands, but from the soil itself, from the rhythm of her people, from the truth. The story of Africa isn't lost. It's just beginning. The spirits of ALKEBULAN stills echoes through modern-day Africa.
Music make me feel I be Jordan. So Burna Boy had a song he did called Another Story. And it talks about how Nigeria was part of a business deal with the British Empire. And there's so many of those stories, even here in Uganda, how the British came and named all like different parts of Uganda and gave us the name Uganda, and changed like water bodies like Lake Victoria from Nalubale. There's a bunch of division and war that they brought here just to conquer and do the divide and conquer technique, so they can take resources, and that is so interesting to see, like how people can come and influence you in that kind of way. So it's interesting to have another perspective on how Africa was back in the day, with all the different regions, Kemet, Punt, and all those. Yeah, catch you in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe.